This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When send past the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Knick updates and trade rumors? Postgame reviews, this the place to tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench. This is NBK, nothing but Knicks.
Knicks family, what's poppin'? It's your boy. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Knicks pulled off, stumbled to the finish line, but they got there nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen. They got there. They defeated the Miami Heat tonight, 106-104. Crazy game, wild game down the stretch, a wild swing in the third quarter by itself. The Knicks up 14, and the Miami Heat stormed back, and then Miami Heat stormed back and take the lead, and the Knicks stormed back again, take like a 7-8 point lead. And then in the fourth quarter was wild all by itself down the stretch, man. But the Knicks pulled it out. Got my man Tony Crow in the building. We got John from Still Knicks fans in the building, man. Let's get it. Tony, what's popping, brother? How you feeling?
Salute, Sim. Salute to the chat. John, welcome aboard.
I'm here.
You're not here often, but it's always a pleasure. And your Blackest Time, man. We got the win. I'm happy.
Yeah.
And congrats to you.
No
again.
doubt. Oh, appreciate that. Appreciate that. I'm a grandfather for the third time. All by the same son, though. You know, he's 28 years old. He got 3 of them already.
Staying busy.
Real busy. He'll have a basketball team by himself soon.
I was going to say, you said point guard. I was about to say, you might be getting a whole starting 5.
For real. You know what I'm saying? They're going to make sure that I'm coaching until I'm 70. You know what I mean? John, what's popping, man? How you feeling?
Man, doing well. We just jumped off of the NBK NBA report, myself and Ron.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, just doing well. We were sort of doing in person, calling the game a little bit and talking about the NBA, talking about the All-Stars, talking about, the selections there and what's happening there, as well as the standings. So, and try to give us some updates on the Knicks and where we stand today. Like you said, we just sort of crawled out of this one. It was weird. It was weird watching it without the sound. Because you don't necessarily know what's going on. And it was just like, you just see them fumbling and bumbling. And it's like, wait, we got this 50-50 ball right now?
Right. Like,
we just scored.
I know it had to be, not hearing the sound like, yo, what the hell is going on in this game?
Yeah.
It was definitely a wild one. But what's your take on the win overall? We'll talk about, the way that they stumbled to the finish line, but your take on this win overall. To me, this was a big one. They needed to get this one. They closed the gap with Miami. Miami was 2 games above the Knicks. Now they're just 1 game above the Knicks. They pulled it out without Jalen Brunson out there. RJ rebounded. Julius Randle, obviously, he's an all-star now for the second time. Yeah, what's your take on it? Just let's start with the game.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'm glad that we won the game. I think it was important for us to win a game after coming off of 2 tough losses. And it was important for us to get this win because these are matchup games right now, right? You have to win these in order to stay relevant within the standings. And you want to be able to have either tie at the very least, right? When you're up, So I'm glad we got the win, even though it was sloppy. But I think overall, their play has been the way it's been all season. Very up and down, inconsistent at times. But when they're playing well, you see performances like we had against the Boston Celtics. So you take the good with the bad at this point in time, at least for this current Knicks roster.
Right. Tony, your thoughts about this game?
I mean, I agree. It was super important. This was the first game we played the Heat, right? Or second?
First game we played the Heat, yeah.
So that was important. The fact that we did it without Brunson. So even them game planning or adjusting next time is gonna be a little bit different. If Brunson's here. So I think that gives us advantage for the next one. I knew RJ was bouncing back tonight. He plays well against the Heat typically, and he plays well coming off of a bad game or benching, any type of controversy as well.
Right.
So glad that happened. And I feel like the more we go through these experiences and we win some, we lose some, we scratch our way through some, it's only going to benefit us moving forward. You know what I mean? Because these are the type of situations I think we're going to face in a 7-game series, especially against a team that we match up well against or even against, which I think there's about 3 playoff teams that we match up pretty even against.
Right.
So,
right. Let me ask you this. What is your take on how the Knicks looked down the stretch without Jalen Brunson tonight?
I mean, it looked bad. It looked bad. There was no one who really could control the pace in the fourth quarter,
right,
or be in control. I think that's the biggest key. When Brunson's on the court, you feel comfortable with the ball in his hands because either he's going to make a good decision, or even if he misses a shot, he was in control of the situation.
Right.
Right now, it seems like they just don't know who that guy would be without him on the court.
Mm-hmm.
Or they aren't prepared for this moment. Both Randle and RJ had opportunities to show that they could provide that. It looked awkward.
It looked crazy. And, when they did score down the stretch, the last minute and 30 seconds, let's say, it was basically off of broken plays.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Broken plays. And, so it wasn't like there was this great ball movement or anything like that. There were broken plays that the Knicks scored off of. We're fortunate that the ball bounced our way so that they could, score on those broken plays. You know what I mean? Nonetheless, they pulled it out. But I think you do see, whether or not, you look at the game, you say, well, the Knicks were still in the game without Brunson. They had a 14-point lead and all of that. But do you know what? The Knicks did that before without Brunson.
And we've done, and let's not act like we haven't seen it happen with Brunson as well.
Right. I mean, but the Knicks, even last year, without Brunson, they were able to build leads.
Mm-hmm.
It was those crunch time moments,
mm-hmm.
those close games that the Knicks couldn't finish off, right? And the Knicks still have had those issues this season where they can't finish off those close games, right? But I think they've done much better in those moments. And obviously they've finished off some of those close games because, they've got to win a record. So I think tonight you kind of see the importance of Jalen Brunson. If not throughout the game, you see it down the stretch and just the way that it looked, and as fans, we're looking like, oh man, who's the ball going to go to? What are they going to do? You know what I'm saying? And Tony, we were talking the other night.
We were saying,
why is Brunson taking the ball out of bounds? Well, I think we've seen tonight why. Right?
So,
it was great that you said that because without listening to it, because me and Ron are doing the show and we're looking over, and all we see is Randle on a post trying to catch the ball over Bam, who's a lot taller. It's what's going on here? Why is this an inbound play? I was like, this doesn't make any sense. But then Tony let us know that he missed them from the actual.
Right. He missed them. Right. And there you go. Here's why Jalen Brunson is taking the ball up. Go ahead, Tony.
I said the same thing. I was like, you know what? Maybe Sim was right because we had that conversation off air. You know what I mean? And I'm like, this is why Brunson took out the ball because he trusts him, and this is why he trusts him over. And no slight to RJ because I think he don't trust many people in that position.
Right.
You know what I mean? You see, he went to Grimes next, and not blaming that pass on Grimes. I think Randle just slipped.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like he had.
But on that one, that play call was weak. That was the weakest inbound play I've seen in a long time. Everyone did like this. Everyone was here, stack. Everyone just ran off. I was like, there's no pick, no screen, no nothing.
That's a high school play.
And
oh my God.
That's a high school stack play. You stack and everyone pops in a different direction. That's all that is.
And they did it late. Like they kind of waited almost a second after the ball was inbound before they even moved. Like, you know what I mean? The timing wasn't even good on it. So
right.
I mean, part of it. I mean, I understand the beef with Tibbs, but it has to. Even the simplest plays, if they're executed right, it makes a difference. And I think the players have a large part to do with the execution of the plays as well as
100%.
whether the plays are good or bad.
Yeah, you gotta execute, especially down the stretch.
Right. Mark Boyce said, at this point, we're looking to draft someone that can inbound the ball. That's all we need you for. Just be a master inbounder, and in those situations, we're going to put you in, let you inbound the ball.
That's why the second round picks is important.
Yeah, for real. I mean, who else on this team, though, of the people that are in the lineup, I don't think, is there anyone in the lineup that you would really trust to make a good decision inbounding the ball? Because that's important.
Right.
I mean, honestly, it's important, but that should not be like a team issue, a problem. You know what I mean? Like where things are on the scout, it should be like, oh, they got problems inbounding the ball. So
press hard, right?
Press them up, like,
press up on them.
Yeah, that's I think it should be a simple fix to me. Hardest thing, I wouldn't mind him doing it. I think he's he's decent at passing, and he's tall enough to see over whoever's at the defending the inbound.
Mm-hmm.
But it really boils down to IQ more than anything else. So you got to have your smartest person. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you got the 5 seconds, which we've seen us be victims of that, which I think is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And then missing people and then still passing it to them. We see us be a victim of that. It's like, to me, those are IQ things. That's not like. And then the problem is, I think our best IQ guys are kind of our shortest guys. Brunson, IQ, and IQ. I know some people will, question his IQ.
Yeah. Rich Jim
I think it's pretty
said,
good.
come on, y'all be reading too much into it. Y'all talking about one inbound play compared to 100s of inbound plays without Brunson. But we're not talking about your regular inbounding play throughout the game, right? Those are normally pretty easy because the defense just lets you inbound the ball. We're talking about these type of situations. You know what I'm saying? And the question was, when the Knicks in the last game, Jalen Brunson inbounded the ball to Julius Randle, right, with 4.5 seconds left. With that amount of time left, I guess you could have kicked it back to Jalen Brunson, but you got 4.5 seconds left. Me, personally, myself, with that amount of time, I don't want to play around with the ball. If you miss it, you go into overtime. Whoever gets it, you're going to be the one taking the shot. That's the way that I see it. I don't want to be playing hot potato trying to pass it with 4.5 seconds left because, someone gets their hand on it, tip it, whatever. They get the ball back with 2 seconds or 3 seconds, and then, they're hitting a shot. So we were asking, why wouldn't you have somebody inbounding the ball to Brunson so Brunson could have gotten that shot? And what we're saying is, I think maybe we see part of the answer tonight is that maybe Tom Thibodeau doesn't trust other people to inbound the ball in those type of situations because guys do what RJ did tonight. I guess maybe it was a good pass from Grimes to Julius Randle, Julius Randle caught it, but you could see his foot slip out from underneath
It
him.
was, and it slipped because he was actually running the other way. It was a good pass because it was a leading pass. You know what I mean? But he had to turn the opposite direction and catch it.
Right.
Which is why he slipped. But
yeah, and at that point, I think the Knicks didn't have any more timeouts.
Nope. And
Right?
that's what we say. These situations out of timeouts have to inbound the ball.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like whether you have to inbound the ball and you're up, or you have to inbound the ball and you're down, and you have to hit. You know what I mean? You have to hit a shot. It has to touch the rim. Like all these little important
things, right?
nuances. It's like you have to choose who.
Right. And we talked about that, high school stack play they did at half court. That could be part of the reason too. You didn't have time to call up anything, so someone just yelled out stack, and everybody just stacked up. That might not even be in the playbook. They just stack it up. We got to do something, and everybody pop in a different direction. I don't know, but
in the NBA,
what'd you say?
It was a weird play to see run in the NBA. It was just like,
Right.
wait, what? It's been a while since I've seen something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, I expected someone to roll,
roll.
it's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
What makes it funny? Like when they did line up like that, I was intrigued. Like, all right,
what are they gonna run?
Like, what?
Are they gonna do something? Yeah, right.
And it was even worse because I had no sound, so I was like, what's going on? What is that?
Oh boy. But I don't know. I mean, I see someone say Rose, Derrick Rose. You know what I mean? I guess you would assume that Derrick Rose should be able to inbound the basketball, and be smart enough to get the ball in bounds. When you think about everyone else that's in the rotation, though, obviously you've seen RJ tonight, and he's young, so you're gonna make bad decisions. Emmanuel Quickly, I don't know. He might shoot that joint from out of bounds. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Julius Randle, no. I don't trust Julius Randle in making decisions like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
That's
so
tough.
I mean, I hear you.
It's definitely tough. You know what I mean? Because especially with 4.5 seconds left, you want to make sure you get the ball in bounds. You can't get a 5-second call, right? You got to make sure you get the ball in bounds. Now, on other plays, where there's not as, the time isn't as critical. Brunson can pass the ball in and then go get it back because you still got 25 seconds or something like that. But all in all, go ahead, John.
iHeart, but the best option might be iHeart. I mean, if he's in the game at that moment.
Right. It could be. I know coaching last year, I didn't find out who my best inbounder was because, I had a bunch of girls that played volleyball and ran and played soccer, right? And our season, games kept getting canceled. And, we only ended up having 12 games last season. And I didn't find out who my best inbounder was until almost like the last game of the season, maybe 2 games left.
2 games left. I remember you telling me.
Yep. And we figured out, she's the best decision maker when it comes to inbounding the basketball. And it helped us out tremendously when teams are trapping because, she was strong enough to throw it long if we needed to, right? And she threw strong passes, and she wasn't going to throw a bad pass. She was going to throw a good pass. And it just took a while to figure out who was going to be the best one. You know what I mean? That inbounding the ball is way more critical than people think when you're in tight situations or team is pressing or stuff like that.
And having that mental clock, right?
Exactly. Having that clock.
You also have that.
Right. That clock to say, I'm close to 5 seconds. Who was it? Was it Toronto who got the 5-second call versus the Knicks? Oh, Cleveland.
Yeah, it was Cleveland.
Cleveland, right? Got the 5-second call versus the Knicks. And
it was a young man who got it. What was his name?
I forgot his name, but yeah.
The rookie.
Right. One of the young dudes got that 5-second call against the Knicks. I mean, it's critical.
No,
you know?
the Spurs.
Oh, maybe it was
Was
the
the
Spurs.
Spurs.
Yeah,
It was
maybe
Yeah.
it was the
Spurs. It was,
Spurs. Maybe it was the
Sohan.
Spurs.
Sohan, rookie,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hey, the Knicks pulled it out, man. So they are now, what are the Knicks? 28 and 24?
3 games over.
28
I know
and
that.
25, something like that. I think they're 20 or maybe 27 and 24, something like that. I don't know. I'm going to look it up right now.
27 and 24. And Miami
28 and 25.
28 and 25.
28 and 25.
And Miami's 29 and
20
24.
Okay, yeah.
Yep, the Knicks are 1 game behind the Miami Heat. They're currently 1.5 games above the Atlanta Hawks. Let's talk about RJ though and his comeback. First, let me get to a phone call, then we'll talk about RJ and he came back tonight. What do you have? 30 points tonight for RJ Barrett. 30 points, 8 rebounds. Nice to see him respond through his play. Through adversity. Caller, you're live. Tell me your name and where you're from, please.
I'm Carlton. I'm calling from Japan. I'm actually a New Yorker.
Oh, what's going on, Carlton? How you feeling, man?
I'm okay. It's good to hear from y'all again.
Yeah.
I noticed that RJ did respond from that. He must have heard all the news on the internet because they were talking about him.
People, listen. People putting him in trade rumors and all that real quick. No,
I didn't say that. I just figured, everybody has ups and downs. I understand that.
Mm-hmm. Let me see. 30 points, 8 rebounds from RJ. Coming into the game, I thought RJ was going to have a good game. I felt like he was going to have a good game. I said it in the game preview, just because of everything that was going on. Did you think RJ was going to have a good game tonight?
I think he was going to do something because he had a lot of things said about him. A lot of them wouldn't really give him a chance, but he responded, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. How was you feeling about RJ not playing in the clutch? Did it bother you at all?
The previous game.
Not tonight. The previous game.
I look at that as the coach holding him accountable for his play. So if he sees that happens, he's going to respond.
Yeah, no doubt. What's your thoughts on tonight's game overall?
Overall, at the end of the game, I think we kind of fumbled a little bit, but we pulled it out. We made some really big rookie mistakes I've seen at the end of the game.
Right. And then, RJ Barrett gets caught up on a screen. Right? And I was like, oh my gosh, Tyler Hero got the ball in the corner. I thought it was going down. I'm not going to lie. It looked good. I thought it was going down. You know what I'm saying? And I thought we was in for another one of those.
I thought it was too.
Yeah, I thought we was in for another one of those games where the Knicks had a double-digit lead, had a so many point lead come down the stretch and blew it. And I can imagine what it would, just that much off, it hits the back iron, that much off changes the entire mood of this show and every other show that's out there and the way all the Knicks fans feel. You know what I'm saying? Just that much. Because I thought it was going down when he let it go.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think that Julius closing in actually changed that.
Yeah, I agree with that. His closeout helped, for him to at least, like, who was it, Mike Breen or whatever said, at least have somebody to think about. You know what I mean? Any other thoughts on the game?
Because RJ.
I think we lost him. Any other thoughts on RJ responding? Tony, John, either one.
I sent you the text him. I thought he was going for 40 tonight. I thought he was going, and if he started the game good, he probably could have, because he didn't even start the game well.
Right. If he was hitting those threes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he was hitting those threes.
But his attack to the basket was that's what I like to see. Finishing strong. I expect RJ to respond. I'm just waiting for him to be able to do this consistently. You know what I mean? And play to this magnitude consistently. Not shoot the three well, but still have a good game.
Right. Right.
And then the little mistakes. Let me ask you this, son, and John. Do you notice we don't double team like strong enough, or even like it's like a hedge, and then we just kind of stand there and wait and don't have a decision when like I noticed we were doing that on Bam a lot. And again, I know you wasn't listening, John, but even the announcer was I think it might have been Clyde. He was saying like double now. You know what I mean? But and RJ, not to point out RJ, because a lot of them do it. He's just standing there and no man's there, not guarding his man and looking at Bam. And we do that a lot. And I'm just wondering, like, why don't we fully commit to a double? Or you know what I mean? Like, that's part of why our 3-point defense is so bad also, because we're stuck looking at the guy with the ball, don't know where their man is, and if he relocate, which most people do, wide open three, or you're running to try to find them and then chase them down. So
yeah, it's a good question, and that's the question that only our coach can answer.
Right.
It's really like, is it that they don't understand the scheme, or are they questioning themselves when they're on the court, right? Are they questioning where they need to be? So they need to either like, nothing's worse than a player that hesitates, right? You have a player on your team that hesitates. Even when I was playing, I hated the fact that if I had a teammate of mine that hesitated, I'm always ripping him when I'm back in the bench. I'm like, dude, make a decision and go. Like,
exactly.
Like even if you get beat off the dribble, that's what we're here for, right? I always force my man to go, right? It's just you can't hesitate, because hesitation, once you hesitate that split second, you're gonna leave that offensive player wins 9 times out of 10.
Right. And I tell my players all the time, don't hesitate. If you're gonna make a mistake, make that mistake going 100%.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you're not supposed to make a certain rotation, but you started making a rotation, just go.
Go. Yeah, don't
just
stop.
go. You know what I'm saying? Don't stop. You might still force the turnover or whatever. Just go. Right. Don't hesitate, because the hesitation is is more troublesome. But I think it has to be scheme. That maybe they're trying to, fake the double team, and then when that person decides to make whatever pass or whatever it is, you close back out. You know what I mean? But to me, that makes it be not as aggressive as it could be. You know what I'm saying? Because you're in between, faking, jabbing. You know what I'm saying? I remember, I don't know if it was Deuce who was doing it, but somebody had the ball in the post. Maybe it was RJ. And, they, kind of looked and they were jabbing, and never went down to make the double. And Walt Clyde Frazier was like, you're jabbing at him, just go, double him. Just go ahead and double him, make the decision. What are you doing? You know what I mean?
And I don't think that can be the coach, because even if somehow this is the coach's scheme, at some point as the player, you have to commit. You know what I mean? You got to commit to one thing or the other. You know what I mean? And that's the thing that like really, really bothers me. It's like I feel like that happens so many times throughout the game, so many different players.
Yeah. I mean, it's the reason why I say I think it's probably scheme is because like there could be situations where they're saying, okay, we want you to jab at it. You're there, you're looking, you jab at it. When they finally make the hard move to the basket is when you go, right? But if that player never makes the hard move to the basket, now it looks like that defender is playing off their man, jabbing, but they never make that hard move, so then they make the pass back out or swing it or whatever it is that they do. You know what I mean? Because I think if the coach told them, go,
they go.
Double and trap, I think they're going.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it has to be something within the scheme with the way that Tom Thibodeau wants them to play it.
I'm
You know
not
what I mean?
saying it's not. I'm saying even if it is, as the player, that there has to be times where you have to make a executive decision. You know what I mean? Like,
But when you go, and that man that you went on makes that pass, now it's on you.
Right,
True.
right. Because
so-
if you, it makes that pass. If you go and they pass it out to the person you left and he knocks down the three or goes to the basket.
OB over here.
Woo!
OB over here.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, again, when you double, it gotta be a strong double. It gotta be effective. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not just saying like doubling, but I don't know. Sometimes I just feel like it's misread,
Mhm.
and
I agree.
you should have the green light to double if you know what I mean. Like, as a player,
Yeah,
the coach should give you the green light to make certain decisions. You know what I mean? It shouldn't be like iron fist.
Right. You know, I don't know. Julius Randle, I'm gonna get to a caller in just a second, but you know, Randle tonight, 23 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists. He did have 7 turnovers tonight, 2. But he makes his second All-Star team as a Knick. He's been with the Knicks for 4 seasons, his second All-Star team. That's not bad. Right? There's only so many Knicks that's been to multiple All-Star games.
I was just about to say we had that conversation off camera.
Yeah.
I believe it was off camera, but Randle is slowly making his way into the Knick record books. You know what I mean? Quiet as kept.
Yeah.
In 4 years, and you look at some of the statistical categories he's in and the numbers he's in, and you factor in if he just finishes his contract here, he's gonna be up there amongst the all-time leaders in a lot of statistical categories. And the funny thing is, a lot of players, Mitchell Robinson as well, in blocks, you know, give him a couple years, he's gonna be like top 2, top 3, maybe number 1, you know what I mean, depending on how many games he play.
Right.
So yeah.
I think they send it. They talked about it on the telecast. You got Patrick Ewing, and after Patrick Ewing is Carmelo Anthony, Allen Houston, and then Julius Randle, who's made multiple All-Star teams for the Knicks.
Wait, Clyde hasn't made multiple All-Stars?
I think since Patrick Ewing. Since Patrick Ewing. Since Patrick Ewing. So since Patrick Ewing, you know, it's Patrick Ewing and then Melo, Houston, Julius Randle. Right? You know, what's your take on it, John? Just Randle and you know, making 2 All-Star teams as a Knick?
I think Randle has solidified himself as a number 1 player for this team. Now, should he be the number 1 option? Probably not. But he is a go-to player on this team and should be looked for that scoring punch, for doing what he's doing there out in the court. And as you can see, he had 7 turnovers due to the fact that there was no Brunson. right? So a lot of had to do with him having to facilitate and be that facilitator on the floor. So I think Randle's in a no-win situation, right? Because you're playing for the New York Knicks. This is the hardest team to play for. And whether you do well or not, there's going to be extreme criticism of his game. But at the very least, he's playing well. He's figured it out. He's not taking things to heart. Although this game seemed like he was going to lose it from his facial expressions. I was like, what's going on here? It seemed like it was something going to go crazy. I'm glad he kept it together and turned out to a win.
That's that.
He said, I'm an all-star. I could talk a little bit more to the refs tonight.
Right.
Because he definitely was on the brink. I thought of getting a technical.
But that's
I don't know
that.
if
But
what you were referring to. But
that's that pressure though that we seen all last season without having Brunson there last season. Every single night it was that. You know 100%. What I'm saying? It was that every single night, and it, you know, just built up until, you know, he did the things that you seen him doing last year. You know what I mean? With Brunson here, he relieves some of that pressure, so he doesn't bug out and do all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, it's dope, man. And shoot, how much better? And I'm gonna ask this question. I'll let you guys think about it. Then I'll get to the caller. How much better can Randle get? He's 28 years old. He's just at the beginning of his prime. You would think 28 years old. How much better do you think he can get? Let me get to the caller, and I'll come back to you. Caller, you're live. Tell me your name and where you're from, please.
Carl from Japan.
You said Carl? Carlton? Carl? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
what's up,
Japan.
Carl?
Yeah, I'm just had to close out. I got y'all back.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I answered that question you just said. You just said, Julie, how much better he can get. He can get a lot better. If he starts playing smarter as he gets older.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the skill.
Right. He's got skill. He's obviously got speed and power. You know, I think you're right. It's all about upstairs with Randle. You know what I'm saying? And I don't even know if the game has fully, he's a fast player anyway, right? It's like he's got this motor, and it's like his brain is going 100 miles an hour still. I think it's got. I think I could see things slowing down for him some with this year with some of the things that I see him do, which I think has helped him become an all-star. You know, the ability to draw fouls. You know, it's something that he's learned how to do without just barreling to the basket. He's learned how to do it out on the perimeter. His perimeter shot is better. I think he's learning better how to recognize the double team, and he still gets caught sometimes when teams are trapping aggressively. He still gets caught holding the ball. You know what I mean? But there's been, I've seen more times where he's passed out of it quicker. You know, so I do think he's, that the game is slowing down a little bit for him. You know, John, what's your thoughts, John? Julius Randle, how much better do you think Randle can get?
I think he can get a lot better. I mean, I think he's progressed. First All-Star season to this All-Star, I still think this is the best season he's had so far with the Knicks.
Yeah.
And you can see it in his play and all accounts, right? Defensively and offensively. Decision-making, especially with Brunson on the court, having that secondary guy, even sometimes with RJ in there with him, going to him as, allowing him to make the decision to either go to Brunson or to an open player, allows him the comfortability with this current team. I think it really goes down to how long can they keep a core group together with him so he can understand more of their traits.
Right.
Because we noticed today when he was walking up the ball, there was some sort of confusion with him and Deuce, which caused the turnover. Yeah. And it's really just nuance of sort of who you're playing with at what time during what parts of the game and whose name is being called for a particular player or whatever. But I think he could get a lot better. I could actually see him scoring a little more than he is right now, while still producing the same amount of rebounds and consistency on the assist side. Because I don't see him being a extremely high assist guy, not with this current team.
Right.
But I think he could up his percentages in shooting the closer he gets to the basket. And he's getting really, really good at one-on-one, attacks. Like man-to-man, there ain't that many guys who can stay in front of him.
Right.
And so I like that for him. And he's jumping out the gym this year.
Yeah, he is. He changed his diet over the summer. Right. And I think that's a big part of, his, the speed and his ability to jump and things that he's doing this year. That changed diet. Obviously, he came in much better shape than he did last season. You know what I mean? Which has, led to the better play, hopefully. And who knows what was going on last season, over the summer and things as to why he didn't come in shape or the type of shape that you would expect him in. He's always going to have a great physique, right? It looked like he's in shape, but he obviously wasn't in the kind of shape that, he wants to be in. Came in that way this year. So hopefully he learns, like, you know what, when I get in supreme shape, a really, really good basketball player.
Body, mind, and spirit.
Exactly.
You get those three, you good.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, just to piggyback, I think that's the biggest area of improvement this year. You know what I mean? The mindset, the mentality. It's not like he lost belief in himself. Nope, he doubled down. You know what? I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna prove myself right instead of like proving somebody wrong. I'm gonna prove myself right. I'm gonna put the work in. I'm gonna do this step, that step, and I say all that to say I think he can win another All-Star bidding in within this contract. You know what I mean? So yeah, I would like to see it next year. To be honest, just to make it a back-to-back.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
and have that to hang over. But ain't no shame if it's every other year, because that just means you was on the brink. You know what I mean? You might have got beat out this year like Brunson did, which I'm sure we're gonna talk about. And
yeah, we're gonna talk about it.
But yeah, I think he could definitely be an all-star again. Oh, and Scott, yeah.
Sorry, I just see the cat run. I don't know. Go ahead, Carl. You was about to say something. Cat ran from something. Something happened in that window, Tony.
Yeah, the cat ran in the background. I know. What I want to say is I agree with what you said about Julius. He improving on a lot of things, but I think with Brunson there, he's going to accelerate because that takes a lot of the thinking out of his hand and the second thoughts that he's having when he makes a lot of those mistakes that we've seen him make. So with him not being the person, and I don't see them closing the game out with the ball in his hand. He is a contributor, a great contributor to the team. However, he's not a closeout guy at the end.
Yeah. How much does that impact how good he is?
I would feel more comfortable with Brunson quickly with that ball in their hand at the closeout than him.
Right. How much, Carl, how much does that impact? We're talking about Julius Randle and him getting better. How much does he hasn't been strong down the stretch. We haven't seen him hit a game winner or, consistently hit those shots. How much does that impact how good of a player he is?
I think it'll help him down the line. But for right now, having Brunson there will help him make better decisions, and then later on he'll get better with it. But without him being there, I think he'll continue to stumble like he did last year.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Carl, man, I appreciate you calling back. All right. Be easy. We appreciate you and hope to, hear from you more. Yeah, no doubt. Tony, what do you think? How much does Randle's performance, in down the stretch of games and clutch moments, does that impact how good he is or will be as a player? Or do you think he'll get better in that area?
I think he'll get better in that area just from experience. I mean, and then if you want to even make it simpler, I mean, law of average. You know what I mean? He gonna hit one eventually, right? And then I mean, and then from there, maybe that's the icebreaker. Maybe now it becomes more comfortable for him. But the biggest area, even in that for him, is really just the decision making. You know what I mean? Because I think he hinders himself. The previous game, that shot didn't get off in time. You know what I mean? So that, like, even a broke clock is right. Twice a day or whatever. So even if you get the shot up to the rim, it might roll in, it might bounce in, it might. So little things like that, you know what I mean? That takes away a whole opportunity,
right?
As opposed to like a 50-50 or whatever the percentage is. So, and just decision making will change everything, and that goes to like last second shots, last second decisions, and throughout the game as well. But I think he'll get better at it. He's already gotten better at it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I think he'll continue to get better as time goes on.
Yeah, John, you think will he get better at it, or does it impact how good of a player you think he is?
I don't necessarily think it'll impact what kind of player he'll be in the NBA necessarily, because I think he is who he is. He's a 20 and 10 guy right now, and I think he would progress from there. As far as ending games, I think he would be someone you would be foolish to leave him open at the end of a game. If you know what I mean? If
Right.
I'm a coach, I'm not letting Julius shoot that last shot, or Brunson. It's really about whatever scheme they come up with to get Julius the ball in a position to succeed,
Right.
in my opinion. It's not just giving him the ball and ISOing. It's really getting him in a position to score that game. He isn't that ISO one-on-one player who's going to hit the step back three. He isn't that kind of player. I think Jalen Brunson is more of that player. But if he's within a pick and roll action to be the option B or A, then you have the opportunity to make him succeed and hit that shot. So I'm not leaving him open.
Right.
Right. So he's going to be a good player in this league. I mean, he's proven so already.
Mm-hmm.
He's what, 8 years in right now?
8 years in. Yeah, 8 years in right now.
You have two All-Star appearances.
Right.
He's solidifying himself right now in front of our eyes. So
yeah, no doubt.
I'm not mad at the way he's been playing, and I think next year he's going to be an All-Star next year as well because we got Jalen. If Jalen stays healthy, that takes away the pressure.
Yeah.
And we've been saying it all along. All New York needs is a point guard, a legit point guard who can distribute the ball. And with this NBA, someone who can score buckets, because this is the new style of NBA that you see.
Right. Last thing before we get into Brunson and his All-Star snub, we were talking about, somebody mentioned, I think it was you, John, mentioned the little mix-up with Randle and Deuce. This isn't the first time that I've seen it. I think I seen it 1 or 2 games ago where he was, kind of barking at Deuce to be in a certain spot or whatever it is, and in that position there, what happened there, I don't know exactly I don't know if Deuce was not supposed to be there or if he was trying to, I don't know what happened or what it was, but, Randle looked like he was getting ready to hand the ball off to him. And then they started having whatever conversations they were having, and then Randle dribbled again. That's how he got the carrying call. You know what I'm saying? I think maybe it was against the Lakers. Deuce had the ball, and he was getting ready to call. He was calling something, and Randle was out on the perimeter, and I seen Randle, put his hands up in the air. Eventually, he moved out the way, but Deuce was pointing I'm trying to get the ball over here or do something like that. So maybe there's, maybe, I don't know, maybe them two are having a little bit.
I remember that play, the second one you're talking about, because it looked like basically he waved Randle off kind of
basically.
Yeah, no, I'm making the decision. I'm the point guard right now.
Right.
That's the way I took it watching it. I'm going this way, and Randle, he conceded.
He conceded. Yeah.
It took him a second, but he conceded.
Yeah, it looked like almost simultaneously for today, Tibbs called an action play that Deuce needed to run while Julius is walking the ball up, and Julius didn't hear it. And it was it seemed like it was confusing because he's like, I'm coming for the ball to get the play going, and then you're telling me to leave.
Or something.
So
right.
It's like, which one is it? So it's a combination of the two, because if you're calling a play, you don't call it you can, but ideally you want your point guard getting the ball from the inbounder.
Right.
Especially if you're starting a play in.
Right. Or if the coach is calling, this is the problem that I have with coaches calling plays all the time, because you got to let the players play and make decisions out there on the floor. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm a point guard and I got the ball and I called one thing and then the coach calls something else, now everyone else is like, okay, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? You've got to send the stuff in through your point guard, in my opinion. And then there are times when you got to let the point guard just make their own decisions out there on the floor and do certain things. This happens with my point guard now. You know what I mean? And I actually tell my players, when she's on the floor and if she makes a call, you got to do what is called on the floor. We'll talk about it afterwards. Now, there are times where she'll look over to me and I'll say, let's do this, this, and this. And then she'll call it, right? There'll be times when Like she might be getting trapped on one side of the floor. I'm all the way down on the other side of the court. I can't see what's actually happening over there. She might tell someone, well, I need you to pop out there, right? So I can get it to you to release the pressure from the trap, you know? And then if I talk to them, they say, well, she said to pop out there. I'm like, okay, cool. That helped to release the pressure of the trap. There's not a problem with that, you know? But if the coach is right there and Randle has the ball and Tibbs called out something, and Deuce is like, all right, I'm coming to get the ball. And Randall's like, no, I'm trying to run this. Yeah, what's Deuce going to do? You know what I'm saying? You know, you got to have better communication than that. You know what I'm saying? And it looked like it could have been something like that. Got to have better communication than that.
It was too awkward of a situation. And I play point, so I know when you got a coach who's always in your ear, you like want to do exactly what he's saying.
Right.
You know what I mean? And as a young player like a Deuce, you're not going to go against that, right?
Right.
Regardless of who the star of the team is.
Right.
It's like, yo, coach told me I got to go get it. I'm gonna go
Exactly.
get it. It's just
Right.
what it is.
Especially if you don't have that stature.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like Randle, if Tibbs calls something and Randle says, nah, I'm doing this, Tibbs probably ain't going to say anything. Nothing's going to happen. He's going to be on the floor anyway. If Deuce does that, you know what I'm saying? He's coming out immediately. He may not play the next game or something. You know what I mean?
100%.
You know, it's different. But that communication has to be clear. And if, as the coach, if you are, you know, entrusting and saying, okay, at this moment, Deuce is handling the ball, then you've got to do it. Say, give him the ball, let him run, get this thing started right here. You know what I mean? But
which is why the way Jaden handles himself in those situations is key, because he trusts Jalen.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And Jalen could be the person who's like forcefully saying, this is my number. This is my call.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then Julius will concede.
Right.
It's harder for Julius to concede when he's on a roll. He just made multiple plays.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then that interference came in, right?
Right. And Jalen, like you're saying, Jalen would be the one. If Tibbs did call something, he might be like, I got it, or something like that. And then boom, you know what I mean? Because he trusts what Jalen is saying to do. And yeah, I mean, there's a big difference. There's a big difference. You know what I mean? And people will look at that and say, oh, that's favoritism and stuff like that. It's not. It's just, you know, Deuce is a young guy. Yeah, it's the NBA. It's basketball. I mean, I think it's basketball like that on just about every level. You know what I mean? You're going to have people that you trust and you say, okay, well, all right, they took a bad shot. I know they're going to get it back at some point. You know, they're going to get a key rebound or a steal or make another big shot that's going to get it back. Another player take a bad shot, you might be like, you know, you might look at him funny like, hey, next, again, you do it again, you'll be sitting next to me. You know what I'm saying? It kind of goes like that, especially with young players. You know what I mean?
And shout out to Deuce for hitting the shots tonight.
Yeah, he knocked
no
him down.
doubt. Yeah, Deuce. Yeah, no doubt about it.
That's my only problem with him. So shout out to him. I gotta acknowledge it.
Yeah, hit his shots tonight. A-Train said exactly, you know, kind of speaking about Tom Thibodeau. He said, and that's why players can't make executive decisions under this coach. He's too iron-fisted. Well, certain players can. It's not every player. You know what I mean? You know, Tibbs is like a really, really old school coach. You know, you can say that again?
He's rigid. He's a rigid.
Yeah, very rigid. Very rigid. You know what I mean?
But don't you think you gotta number one, as a player, you gotta know if you break the play, it has to be executed. That's number one. Sometimes that doesn't save you. We spoke about that before too. Right. But you gotta at least give your player the grace to explain why he did what he did.
Yeah.
And what he saw. You know what I mean? And
right.
And I think that's what I mean when I say, you know, you got to give the player the grace to you know, make an executive decision.
Mm-hmm. And listen, if you make a decision, if you're not one of your top players that's out there, if you make a decision, it damn well better work. You know what I'm saying? And I think most coaches, you know, if you make a decision to go against what the coach is asking you to do, You know what I mean? Because you've seen something out there, or like this guy is, he's giving you the right all day long. So, yeah, I know coach said call this, but I'm gonna take him right this time. You score, now the coach is gonna look and say, okay, all right. And then when they do have that conversation with you, it's gonna be a little bit softer because you execute it. And now the coach is gonna ask, okay, what made you do that? Oh, he was giving you that. Oh, I see. But if you don't score, if you turn it over, coach don't want to hear nothing. Even if it was the right play, but you didn't do what the coach asked and you turned it over, made that and so you better make sure that joint is executed. You know what I mean?
There's a fine.
And you got to have the answer. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And that's the difference. Like, I don't care if you made it. All right, why'd you do that?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you got to have a answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can't just be like, well, I made it. No, but what did you see that made you do that other than what you know what I mean? Because.
But there are two different styles too. Like you think of the D'Antoni days where it's very freestyle, very, predicated on the offensive player, all the point guards and, the high level scorers making all the decisions versus how Tibbs, he still does that, but it's almost off of calling a play. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, we're running this, we're running that, we're running that. It's like you come into the game knowing what plays you're running consistently, where the D'Antoni team, you're running and then freestyle.
right.
That's what you know, right?
Right.
So
and with
different methodologies,
Yeah, with D'Antoni's methodology, it's more like there's a set of actions. It's not really plays. There's a set of actions. So I know if my point guard dribbles this way, I'm cutting baseline. If my point guard dribbles towards me, I'm cutting through. You know what I mean? Like there's just a set of actions, and so you just play by these set of actions. Right. You know what I mean? Not really a play or a set. It's just what happened with the ball? Where did this guy cut? So I'm gonna cut this way. I'm gonna cut that way. You know what I mean? Right. I understand it. It makes it hard to defend because you never know what's coming when you play that style. A team plays that style of basketball. You don't know what's happening. You know what I'm saying? You can't say, oh, they're going to post up this guy every time because they're not. You know what I mean? Like anything can happen on any given play, so it's very, very unpredictable. But you got to have really, really high IQ players to play that style of basketball, which is the reason why the Suns were so good back then because Steve Nash had a really, really high basketball IQ. So he could basically run it, and guys like Amari Stoudemire, he was, I think towards the
Sean
end.
Marion, too.
Right.
Relegated to finishing. Amari only had to finish.
Just had to finish.
But then you had high IQ guys like Sean Marion.
Right.
You know what I mean?
IQ guys.
High IQ guys. And then
surrounded them.
Like guys like Amari Stoudemire, I don't think he was at that point really a high IQ guy. You know what I'm saying? I think later on his IQ was much, much better. You know what I mean? But, you look at, he came out of high school, he didn't have that kind of coaching around him. He was an athlete. So he, a lot of times with an athlete, their IQ for them to get over, doesn't have to be that high. So they never build their IQ until they play more basketball games. So with Steve Nash, it was like, I'm going to create it for you. You just finish. And Stat was,
finisher.
One of the best finishers you're going to see. You know what I mean? Yeah. Sean Marion, all of them guys. Yeah, you got to have a high basketball IQ to play that style of basketball. I think with Jalen Brunson, the Knicks have much higher IQ now. You know what I mean?
Which is why, I question. My question is not, is Tibbs good for us today? Is he good for us later moving forward?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because the reality is that a team like this, as you start to grow younger and more athletic, with these two guys three guys as our core. You talk about RJ, you talk about Brunson and Randle, right? RJ, Brunson, and Randle. You have to build the chemistry around those guys and making sure that you have a team that's consistently a group of players that will play year in and year out in order to build chemistry. Is Tibbs the right coach for our future? He's great for now because this is a culture shift. Is he the right one for our future? And I don't necessarily know if he is.
Right.
Me personally, but it's good for right now.
Yeah, it's good for now. It's hard to say, depending on the kind of players that come into the organization and, can he use those players?
When you say future, my bad, son.
No, go ahead.
When you say future, are you talking about an extension though, or are you saying finishing out the contract? Because my thing is, let him finish out his contract. And like I said that before we even signed him. I said whoever we sign, make sure that's in a commitment. You're gonna live and die by that decision. And so I stand by that.
Yeah, I'm with that. I just don't want to see an extension without seeing the fruits of the labor, right? If now we start seeing progression throughout Tibbs' tenure and then we're upwards in that projection, then by all means you earned it. But if we see the consistency of being or the in execution that we see now continue, and we can't get over the hump in the playoffs, then your time has come, right? Like you've meet your expectation, and then at that point we got to move forward.
Right. Tibbs needs to bring in Mike D'Antoni as an assistant. I said that like a couple of years ago. I don't know if it would work. Those two would probably butt heads. Right. You know what I'm saying? But like Mike D'Antoni would know how to use Brunson and Randle and RJ on the offensive side of the ball. I think he would really know how to use those guys and have them free flowing, but
quickly.
And
Obi.
And Obi. You know what I'm saying?
All
like
right.
he would.
May
really,
I say it? And Cam, even though they ain't in the floor.
But. Stop, because I really don't like D'Antoni, so I don't want to participate anymore.
But I mean, he would know how to use those guys. Would Tibbs allow him the freedom to craft an offense around those guys, and then would they butt heads about, the way the defense is ran? Because Mike D'Antoni wasn't really a defensive guy. He was more, we're gonna put pressure on you. We're gonna run and gun and shoot, and you're gonna be too tired to score on the other side of the floor, or we're just gonna outscore you.
And we're gonna be too tired to defend well.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But he was also more about, he would talk a lot about, he would say it's not about how many points the team scored, what was the percentage that they shot from the field, things like that. I wouldn't be able to see the two working together.
Yeah.
I always felt like Atkinson as an assistant.
I was about to say that
would have been the perfect pairing. And it's hard. I guess it's hard to take a step back when you just getting to earn your head coaching. You know what I mean? Your
he's doing it with the Warriors
or whatever.
Yeah,
true that. But that's a championship that now him stepping back, going to the Warriors can actually build to his career. It's not looked at as a step back, especially if you get a championship. Now you know what I mean? Like now that's part of your resume.
Right, which they
as
did
opposed
last year.
to stepping down or taking a step back and not having, some type of reward for it.
Right. Shout out to Uncle Fulio. He said the Knicks don't have the right on-ball player to close games, in my opinion. He said Brunson is the best we have. However, him, Randle, and even RJ are better as finishers. Brunson, I think, is doing really well. He hasn't hit the game winner, but I think he's actually doing a pretty good job helping to close games for the Knicks. Or let me not say close games to a win. He hasn't hit the game winners. And, this is the first time in his career that he's been in this position and had to be the closer, right? Let's give it a little while and then start to look at, his closing numbers versus others. You know what I'm saying? Because he just hasn't had enough time as a closer, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
And he hasn't had enough shots taken at the end of games either,
Right.
like to win a game.
Right.
Like it's only been like maybe 2
Yeah.
times
Right.
this season.
And in both of those times, he
Good shots.
dragged the team to that point.
And had good looks.
Yeah.
It wasn't like I give that look to him 5 out of 5 times. He's gonna knock it down at least 3.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like he dragged the team there and then got good looks and didn't make them. If you look at most players around the league, their percentages in that area aren't high. Even your best players, their percentages in closing and hitting game winners and things isn't that high. It's not like they're shooting 50 and 60% at closing game winners. You know what I mean? So let's give it some time. He's going to need more than 2 to determine if he's actually that kind of a closer yet, I think. You know what I mean?
Now, look at Hero. Hero tried, today. Because
right.
they consider him their closer
right.
when it comes to shooting the last shot.
Exactly.
He didn't make it.
He didn't make it. You know what I mean? Those shots are tough to make under duress. What do you think about Brunson not making the All-Star team? And do you think he should have made the All-Star team over a couple other guys that did?
I don't want to be biased here, but I thought he should have made the team. The weird part about it, and when Bron and I were looking at it, is the way in which they chose to bring in. So you either play the guard position, you were brought in as a guard, or as a forward, or backcourt, right, or something like that. So you had to fit within that criteria. So there wasn't a way, like DeMar DeRozan probably went in as a big versus a guard. And so you look at Tyrese Halliburton, great numbers across the board. It's hard to diminish what he's done.
Right.
Jrue Holiday, another one, really solid numbers across the board, plus defensively solid, and has played an entire season. I don't think he's even had an injury this year.
Jrue,
right?
Oh, that's surprising. I thought he missed games. I thought he had. I thought we were questioning whether he was going to be available against us. And then it was like, oh, he's back. But that was going to be my next question. The games played, I think that should matter. I don't know where Brunson ranks amongst that, but Halliburton I know has missed time. And I know I thought Holiday missed time, but
could be right.
I may be wrong, but I think Brunson should have made it. The only thing I will say is I felt like if we maintained that 6th seed, I think he would have got in, and I think that's where we kind of fumbled the ball.
Right.
And it's funny that even with that, who on the Heat made it? Butler?
No.
See,
right. Bam,
so that's
just Bam. That's it.
Just Bam. Okay, so Bam made it, and I think that's they have an argument just being the 6th seed whether Butler should have made it or not. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think if we would have made the 6th seed, Brunson might have got in over Halliburton. And I say that because of the games missed.
Yeah, because of the games missed. Because his numbers and his play are crazy. There. 20 points, 10 assists per game, shoots high percentages from the field. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the combination, games missed and seeding, because obviously you know what I mean? If we were the 6th seed, I had those two
Halliburton
things.
is shooting it well from the 3-point line too, which is what was questionable about his game coming into the league.
Right. Is there anybody else when you look at who's on the team? I don't know if there's anybody else that you would actually say, yeah, he, the Eastern Conference, obviously you have the starters, right? Then you got Bam Adebayo, Jaylen Brown, DeMar DeRozan, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Halliburton, Jrue Holiday, and then Randle. I mean, you look at it. Miami Heat have a winning record. The Boston Celtics have a winning record. The 76ers have a winning record. The Bucks have a winning record. The Knicks have a winning record. So you got the Pacers and the Bulls, two teams that do not have winning records. And they got two guys that's in the All-Star team, right? You know, people can make I agree with the argument about the amount of games, the number of games played, without a doubt. DeMar DeRozan, I don't even know what his stats are right now. Let me see. DeMar DeRozan, where is it? There we go. DeMar DeRozan so far is, 26 points a game, 4.8 rebounds, and 5 assists.
I mean, it's hard to argue it except for the record. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
and they've made that argument in the past. Oh, he would be an all-star, but he's doing it on this team. He's doing it or they're not winning games. I've heard that argument like against or from the voters, like the potential well, I mean, these are coaches that get to decide this part, right?
Right.
The bench.
Right. Coaches decide the bench.
And I mean, I guess you gotta respect it. If it's coming from coaches and players, for the most part, you gotta respect
right. This comes from the coaches. Jalen Brunson, 22.8 points per game, 3.5 rebounds, 6.2 assists per game. If he would have hit those game winners, he'd be an all-star.
Yeah.
I bet. Right.
And obviously, we'd probably be the 6th seed.
Yeah. Obviously, the Knicks would have a little bit of a better record. They'd probably be the 6th seed. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think he would definitely be an all-star if he hit those game winners.
I'll even say too, and I think someone on your chat probably pointed at this too, as a crispy, defensively, if he gave you a little bit more, more steals,
he's
more rebounds,
charges.
Yeah, but that's not a quantifiable stat. It's more
is it not because that was part of the talk when Larry was named the All-Star and
how many charges
for him? Yeah, leading the league in charges, and you know what I mean. Like,
I don't see it in the stat line though. That's what I'm saying. It's not a stat line that they record, do they?
Well, they do if they can tell you someone's leading the league, is documented, it's recorded.
Well, maybe right there. I don't know.
Well, if somebody doesn't play, he might be the next one up.
I would see that.
Him, Jimmy Butler though could be one of the next ones up. Tyler Hero could be one of the next ones up.
Siakam.
Right? It's Pascal Siakam. So there's a lot of guys. I guess it would depend on who doesn't play.
Yeah.
Harden.
Oh yeah.
His numbers are ridiculous when you look at them. I think what DeRozan does
he was the snub of all snubs, I guess, that everybody's talking about.
Right.
In more ways than one.
It is kind of crazy that, for forever, James Harden has been on an all-star team. You know what I'm saying? Forever. So I guess there's a lot of people that, Jalen Brunson had to leap over when you're talking about guards in the Eastern Conference in order to make that all-star team. A lot of guys.
I heard something earlier where they was talking about that Harden isn't well liked, and I was gonna ask, do you think coaches and players can't put, if that's true, like they can't put the personal feelings aside and acknowledge
I can guarantee
the numbers?
That there are coaches that are like, I don't like this guy. I'm James Harden, 21.4 points per game, 11 assists. Tyrese Halliburton, 20 points per game, 10 assists. I'm voting for Tyrese Halliburton. Right. I don't like James Harden. There's got to be. That's
not a professional.
It's either that or Kevin Durant has
integrity.
more pull than we know of.
Right. Right.
Because he might not even play, right?
Yeah, I know I missed a couple of callers, man. Call back in, ladies and gentlemen.
Or even
and I got
that.
you.
Do you think you know, the reputation or whatever, like how he handled the Houston situation, how things ended up with the Nets, knowing the Houston situation, he wanted to go to Philly or from then anyway. Do you think stuff like that, like, are stay in people's minds for, like, you know what I mean?
Possible.
It shouldn't be relevant, but do you think it affects it?
I mean, I think it has to. I think it does. I mean, obviously, you know, when you watch games or when you play games, they're going to look at, okay, when we played this team, who did I really have a hard time stopping? You know, like, who really killed us out there? Now, Jalen Brunson has killed a lot of teams this year. You know what I mean? But, you know, they're going to look at who really was killing it. And I think for the most part, that's what they're going to vote on. So a lot of times it's going to be like with James Harden, you look at how many guards are in the Eastern Conference, and then you look at his team, and, you know, while he might put up those numbers, people are going to, but Joel Embiid really killed us. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we're going to vote for, I'm going to vote for Joel Embiid because it wasn't really Harden that killed us, you know, with so many other guards out there in the Eastern Conference and the NBA altogether. You know, it's tough. I think they should expand the number of players that's on the team. There's so many good players in the league. I think for the Knicks, I guess for any team that's out there, whether or not you make the All-Star team is one thing, but are you playing at that level? I think that's the key. And Brunson's playing at that level.
Or they should do a All-Star game and a Superstar game.
I guess that's what the starters are.
I mean, yeah, let them play their own and have like a 3-man sub.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
sub.
Look, if you do a Superstar game and you let the fans vote, Derrick Rose would have been in the Superstar game.
Rose.
Right?
Yao Ming probably still getting votes.
You know,
Jack, will get votes.
You know, all kinds of people would be getting votes.
Oh, Yao Ming was like second in votes one year, and he played like 3 games.
Right. You probably need a hologram of Kobe.
Yeah.
You know
Kai
what I'm saying?
Soto sighting. Kai Soto sighting.
Right. You know. Yeah, that would definitely be hilarious right there. I mean, be hilarious. But the Knicks tonight, ladies and gentlemen, they get a big win, a much needed win. They out-rebounded the Miami Heat 44-33. 25 assists tonight for the Knicks. As a matter of fact, they've been in the high 20s in assists the past couple of games. I think they had 27 versus the Los Angeles Lakers. And then the game before then, I think they had a high number of assists against Brooklyn, maybe 30 or something like that. I don't remember the exact number. If it wasn't Brooklyn, then it was another game, but they had a high number of assists. 8 steals for both teams. No blocks for the Knicks tonight. The Knicks did have 17 turnovers, 10 for Miami. The Knicks shot 48% from the field, 33% from 3. Miami, 45% from the field, 36% from 3. 52 points in the paints for the Knicks, 36 for Miami. 14 second chance points for the Knicks, 11 for Miami, and 10 fast break points for the Knicks, 9 for Miami. You know, a good win, not a perfect game, but a good win. I like getting wins when the game isn't perfect. You know, like when a team is just hot out of their mind, you can always look at it and say, all right, you know, they got the win. You know what I'm saying? But such and such was hot, or this guy or that guy was hot. You know what I'm saying? I like getting wins when it's imperfect. You know?
Tibbs likes it too, so he can still yell at them after the game.
Hey, you know what? I mean, that's part of it too, because you can still point and say, "Listen, we got to do this, and this." You know,
and you keep them grounded. Like, don't get too high. You know
exactly.
what I mean? Don't celebrate too much.
And he was hot after a few of those timeouts.
Right.
He was blowing a fume.
Yeah. What do you take from this over the last few games? What is it? I guess 5 or 6 games. The Knicks have beaten the Celtics, Cleveland, and Miami. 3 teams in the top 6 in the Eastern Conference, right? They already have a win over Philadelphia once this season. Although Joel Embiid didn't play in that game, they haven't beaten Brooklyn yet. And they haven't beaten Milwaukee, right? They've been close
Not
with
this
Milwaukee,
season.
but they haven't beaten Milwaukee. So those are the only 2 teams in the top 6 that they have not beaten. They've beaten everybody else. They've beaten the Hawks. They've beaten the Wizards. They've beaten the Bulls, right? Those teams make up the top 10 in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, they've beaten Detroit, Charlotte, Orlando, Toronto, and Indiana. Well, Toronto, they've lost to a couple of times, too. But in the top 6.
We beat the Hawks.
Yeah, I
Did
think
we?
we beat them once. Trey, I thought
Or
we beat them
the
once.
earlier first game
First
against them.
game. I think
Then we lost
beat.
the next 2.
Yeah, we lost in there. That's right. We lost the next 2. Yeah. But we beat the Celtics, the Cavs, Miami. Any thoughts on that?
I think it's good because we got all those teams still coming up again. You know what I mean? Like, so I mean, it's good for the confidence. I think, and it's good knowing that we might match up with one of these teams in the playoffs, depending on the seeding. You know what I mean? Especially if we get that 6 seed, because you don't know who's gonna end up being 3. So you want to go into any series knowing, all right, I at least beat them once, right? Or I beat them twice, however many times. But you don't want to go in knowing you got swept by a team, even though we went in knowing we swept the team and didn't perform well in the playoffs.
Right.
But
Yeah, I mean, John, go ahead. I'll let you answer, and then.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good. I mean, all in all, it's just I'm looking at this season as trying to see progression,
Right.
and I think we're seeing it. You know what I mean? As long as we keep seeing progression from our players, from the style of play, and and you're seeing the young kids. Because remember, a lot of what was said before is young kids aren't maturing enough. They aren't getting exposure. They aren't getting enough playing time. I think they're getting enough playing time now. When you think about the full unit, there's enough younger kids on this rotation. So seeing that progression is key. Quickly's playing out of his world this year. I think he should be looked at as a viable 6-man this year. But yeah, I think we've seen progression. The only thing that slowed down Obi was the injury, and he hasn't been getting the looks that he was when he was sort of in that little streak that he had going on, where he was knocking them down from 3. He had like at least 3 3-pointers each game. It was an interesting run that he had. But yeah, I like what I'm seeing. I like Grimes' progression. So all in all, it's good when you talk about those matchups.
Yeah,
because we're going to see them again.
And it's big because you prove to yourself that you can beat these teams. Boost your confidence. You know what I mean? And when you do see him down the road, if you see him in the playoffs, or you're within one of these stretches to, battling for a playoff spot, you feel confident going into these games. You know what I mean? And I think this is a big win because, like, Miami's been one of those nemesis for the Knicks. They haven't met them in the playoffs or anything, but the Knicks, like all of last year, even when we made the playoffs, we struggled with the Miami Heat. So I think for them to get this win today without Jalen Brunson is big, and a big confidence builder that, we could take these guys down and, get this 6th seed.
Plus, they had no answer for RJ.
Right. Exactly.
Like, offensively, no one had an answer for him, on the defensive side for Miami. And they were not keeping Butler on him, right? So they had to force Hero, or was it Caleb Martin, guarding him?
Yep.
And he was just muscling them. So
right. Yeah, let me get to a call, and then I want to hear Tom Thibodeau and his thoughts on tonight. Caller, you're live. Tell me your name and where you're from, please. Caller, you there? Guess not. Guess we missed out on the caller. We'll go ahead and get into Tom Thibodeau, and then we'll call it a night. This is Tom Thibodeau, ladies and gentlemen. See what he's got to say.
Coach, after Tuesday's loss, you talked about specific defensive principles you want to consistently see from the team. What's your assessment of tonight?
I thought the effort was really good, strong. In Miami's been playing really well for a while, so I knew it would be a good test. I like the way our guys responded, particularly you're down 2 starters, and you have to play well throughout in order to win.
Talk about your bench, particularly in the second half, and what Evan gave you in that second half.
Yeah, I thought particularly the end of the third, start of the fourth, I thought that was a big lift, and I think that was a big part of the game. Also, in getting the starters some rest during that stretch. I thought Evan played well. I thought Deuce played really well. I thought Obi really played well. And obviously RJ was in there with him, and then Isaiah as well. So that stretch was critical for our game. It gave us some breathing room.
You said before the game about RJ from the other day. Move on to the next one. Today, 30 points, 20 of them in the second half, and some big plays.
Just all around. Very, very aggressive from the start. And I thought the start of the game, like his defense was really good, strong, and then his aggressiveness going to the basket, I thought was huge for us.
You got Julius named to the All-Star team today. Just kind of what you thought about that.
Just terrific, well-deserved, thrilled for him and his family. But it's his impact on our team and the winning part of it. And, just the way he's bounced back this year, too, says a lot about him.
Tough to get 2 guys, but surprising that Jalen didn't.
Yeah, and usually, what you find is I thought he was deserving. And the hard thing about the All-Star game is there's not enough spots for the guys that are all the guys that are deserving, having great years. Usually the next year, once you get established, you'll get more consideration, and hopefully you'll still get consideration this year if someone is out. He deserves it as well. I think both guys, but Julius in particular, just thrilled for him because of the work that he put in and the way he's approached everything.
Jalen, you expect him back?
Yeah, just feeling, under the weather, so see where he is tomorrow.
Julius was just in here talking about how in the offseason he didn't pick up a ball for a long time right after the season, and kind of like mentally decompressed, and it helped him out a lot. In the conversation with Johnny Bryant helped him out a lot. Have you noticed the kind of a shift in his approach and his attitude?
Yeah, no, I think just taking a step back from last year, I think was really good for him. And then, and I said this, I've said it a lot. I think there was a lot of pressure last year just because we had to manage really without point guard play. And I think getting Jalen this year has been huge for us.
Do you think there was pressure too, just coming off the prior season, playoffs, All-NBA, All-Star, for him to try to just meet that again?
Yeah, I just think it was hard because of the way teams loaded up. Atlanta loaded up on them in the playoffs. And then we saw more teams doing that all year. And then when you have the ball in your hands, it's easy, to load up on someone. You're exerting a lot of energy trying to score like that. And I think just getting away from that and trying to move more without the ball, I think that's probably make quicker decisions, don't hold on to it. I think that's helped them a lot as well.
He said that he's been able to handle failure better this season. Do you see that?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of, like when you think about, how do you learn? You usually learn, through trial and error. So sometimes, it's positive, but a lot of times it's, it could be negative. And nothing ever stays the same. So I thought, 2 years ago he had a lot of single coverage, he had a lot of room, and then they wanted him to continue to show that he could do it. And then once he did that, then he started getting more attention, more double teams, and that made it so he had to go to a different level with that. And so I think understanding that, taking a step back and say, okay, Like he wants to do well, and it comes from a really good place. So learn from it, and then bounce back.
You talked about also you just having ultimate belief in him, no matter what, and also holding him accountable. I'm just wondering, just your approach with Julius as your top guy. What is it, and is it different at all than past approaches with top guys?
No, I think that, in the one advantage that I think that I have is that having coached against him, right? So when I was, we were in different places, like I always had a lot of respect for him as a player, and I knew the things that I didn't like to see, like when he's aggressive, attacking the basket, like running the floor. Those are, you don't want Julius coming at you with a head of steam. Like that's very difficult to stop. Good things usually come from it. Either the layup, the free throws. It puts you at a big disadvantage, and it creates open shots for other people. So, like in his versatility, I think. He can score a lot of different ways. His skill set is pretty unique because of the power and the speed and the athleticism. And then when I first got here, I was surprised at how well he shot the ball. And I think everyone played more for the drive or the post, and you gave him space. And he's really worked hard on his shooting. And I think it's helped. And where he is now, is at a different place. I think analytically, if you look at his shot profile, it's far different than it was a year ago. And I think it's made him more efficient. It's made our offense a lot more efficient. And the impact on the team has been huge.
For RJ, when he's not aggressive as maybe the other night, like he shouldn't have been, when he has a guy like Jimmy tonight, sometimes matching up, does it almost help a guy sometimes? Like, if you're not aggressive when you're playing against a guy like that, he's going to eat you alive a little bit, and you have no choice but to play that way.
Well, the thing that I love about RJ is I always believe he's going to bounce back, and I saw it immediately the next day. After the Laker game, I said we'll be fine, because I know, like, it's important to RJ. So I knew he'd come out aggressive, and I think I said this to you guys the other night is. Prior to the injury, RJ had a stretch of about 15 games where he was playing phenomenal, like where he was scoring big and efficiently, and then, being out 2 weeks, it sort of knocked him out of rhythm a little bit, and now, hopefully he can get back on track to the point where he was, but that's usually the way he is. It's a steady climb all season long, and so I think, he responds well to challenges. He knows that Miami's a really good defensive team. They're going to keep pressure on you. Jimmy's a great defensive player. But RJ, same thing. He can score a lot of different. Like when he's running the floor and he gets some easy buckets, that usually gets him going too. Yeah. Go ahead.
This game was like whole season, so many ups and downs. What's your sense about this?
I'm sorry, I missed the last part.
This game was like the whole season with so many ups and downs. And what's your thought about this?
And you're like, and that's a normal game. There's going to be swings, and it's really how you respond. Like you come into a game, and we have two starters out, right, and they're playing really well. And after watching the Laker film, I thought we played a really good game. So now bounce back, be ready for this one. And then you have to do enough good things to win the game. And we didn't do enough in the Laker game, but we did tonight. And then tomorrow the challenge is, okay, get ready for the next game. We know we got the Clippers coming up, and that's a whole different challenge. So we got to get ready for them. But never get too high, never get too low. Just concentrate on next play, what's in front of you, and approach it that way. So I want us to build the right habits each and every day.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Tom Thibodeau. Guys, any thoughts? I want to talk about the Clipper game before we get out of here, but any thoughts on what you heard from Tom Thibodeau?
I mean, it seems like when they win he likes to talk. Like he likes to,
Well,
but he always says the same thing. Like it's like his nothing really changes with him. You know what I mean? Like it's his philosophy is his philosophy.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat. Like you're gonna hear the same sort of information coming to you from Tibbs. It's not gonna be nothing more, nothing less.
Right.
It's pretty standard. And when you look across the NBA, it's pretty standard unless you see some sort of blowout, right? Like where a coach will demand better from his team. But all in all, I mean, you expect him to come in and say what he said, and it's really about what we see on the court as fans. Like, are we seeing shifts and changes within the way they're playing? They're making less and less mistakes as they move on into the season. So the closer we get to the playoffs, are we seeing them execute down the stretch,
Right.
especially closing out quarters
Right.
efficiently? That's really the way I look at it. What coaches are going to say is what they're going to say. They're not going to put light to any deficiencies that they may see or have. But for the most part, I think he's great for the culture. Like I said, he's great for the locker room right now. He's great for the organization right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Clippers. The Knicks play the Clippers on Saturday, 7 p.m. The Clippers right now, I think they're 5 games above 500. Yes, they're 4 games above 500. They're 29-25, fourth in the Western Conference. It's crazy. Sacramento Kings are third in the Western Conference right now. They're 29-21. I don't think anybody expected the Kings to be this high or this good. But what's your thoughts on this Clippers game coming up on Saturday?
I like this matchup. I like this matchup for the sake of saying that Kawhi and PG haven't played a full season together and not that many games together. So I think with a Tibbs coach team, they're going to be prepared defensively to sort of take one of the two players out.
Right.
Like maximize one player over the other defensively. And so I think it will work in our favor. I really, though, hope that Brunson's playing. If Brunson's not playing in this game, then we may not win this one.
Yeah. I hope that Brunson is playing too.
I heard has a career game.
Okay.
Now, my biggest concern is foul trouble and foul disparity.
Mm-hmm.
If we can guard Paul George without fouling, guard Kawhi without fouling, I think we could be in the game, throughout. And I think that's what it boils down to. You can't give those guys free throws and 10 attempts and plus 10 plus attempts because they're gonna kill you with that. And turnovers. No easy shots.
Yeah.
But I like the way we match up with them for the most part as well. Same reason. Like, who's to say they even both play?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't even.
Right.
Like, there's probably an over under on that.
Yeah.
So
I think the Knicks can get this win versus the Clippers, and then the next day, Sunday, February 5th, they play the Philadelphia 76ers. Both games are at home, by the way. You know what I mean? And that's the game. Obviously, I want to get this Clippers game, but they got to get that 76ers game. You know what I mean? Because they have not they've beaten the 76ers, but without Joel Embiid. But if they can get that Sixers game, they'll be 2-1 against them for the season. You know what I mean? And then they'll play one more time so they can guarantee that they're tied for the season at least. And then if they can get them the next one, they'll be 3-1 against them, right? And the Knicks in the Atlantic Division, they are 3-7 in the Atlantic Division. All right, so they need to start stacking up as many wins in that division as they can. Now, obviously, there's some really, really good teams. You know what I mean? Your top 4 teams are all in the playoffs or play-in. The Knicks are right now in the play-in, And the Raptors are just, 2 games out of the play-in, right? So some really good teams in that Atlantic division that the Knicks got to deal with. It's a tough division, you know what I mean? But, for tiebreaker purposes, obviously for winning purposes and their winning percentage, but also those tiebreaker games, you know what I mean? They need to get some wins in that division, as many as they can. So Philadelphia is going to be the next team that they play. They've already lost the series to the Raptors. They've lost twice to the Nets. They've split with the Celtics so far and split with the 76ers. So
it definitely doesn't look in our favor just for the sake of Embiid is such a dominant force. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that is just.
And Harden's gonna probably be on a tear for like the next couple of games until after the All-Star break.
You know what I'm saying? Right.
So,
just to prove that he's an all-star or whatever,
Yeah. And they got really key. They got nice, solid pieces around them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's key. And they're well coached. So defensively, they're gonna bring their A game.
Yeah. Yeah. No
maybe
doubt.
maybe Randle starts getting some All-Star calls.
Hopefully.
Maybe. He gets a lot of calls already, to be honest with you. Actually, sometimes I'm surprised that Randle doesn't get more technicals. As much as I see him complain to the referees and, he doesn't do what LeBron's been doing the last few games, you know what I'm saying? Right? But, I'm surprised he doesn't get more technical fouls than he does.
I think they're extending the leash, right? Because they know that right now he's solidified all-star. Like he's the guy on the Knicks team who's carrying most of the burden. So they're giving him a little bit of the leash right now. And I think the NBA understands that. Referees, they all understand that.
Yeah.
It's part of the growth.
Like let's not help him get to where he was last year.
Right.
But this Clipper game is gonna be tough because Brunson, that Terrence Mann kid, he's hard to handle. And they got Reggie? I forget his last name.
Jackson.
The kid,
Jackson. Reggie Jackson.
Off the bench. Like that's a tough matchup. Quick, I think will do well with him. Like play, I think it's gonna be back and forth. But that is it Terrence Mann or Trey Mann? What is this?
Trey Mann, I think it is.
Trey Mann.
I think it's Trey Mann.
Yeah. If we don't have Brunson.
Yeah. The Clippers right now are leading the Bucks 87-78. It's the end of the third quarter.
They're playing the Bucks. Bucks.
Playing the Bucks right now on TNT, the Clippers. Playing the Bucks right now on TNT. Yep, and they're up 87-78. So, that's the Knicks' next matchup, ladies and gentlemen. The Los Angeles Clippers, Saturday at 7 p.m. See if the Knicks can get that win. Listen, during this stretch, man, if the Knicks, they beat Miami, they beat the Clippers, and then, we'll see what happens with Philadelphia. This stretch that everyone was nervous about, including myself, you can say, okay, well, they're faring well. You know what I mean? And, it's not going to be easy, but you'll see if they can battle through it. But other than that, any last things anybody want to say before we get out of here?
Congratulations again to you.
Appreciate it.
Shout out to the chat. John, always a pleasure to share the screen.
Always.
Your Blackest Time. And go Knicks.
Yeah, no doubt. And ladies and gentlemen, we got those tickets to the February 24th Knicks versus Washington Wizards in Washington, D.C. Come and join us. It's $135 per ticket. Section 114. We'll be doing pre- and post-game activities at Guy Fieri's D.C. Kitchen and Bar, which is connected right to the stadium. So, like I said earlier, we're going to have a bunch of Knicks fans right there at the bar. We're going to take over the Capital One Arena and throw it all up in the Washington Wizards' face, that we're having a podcast right in their arena. You know what I'm saying? That's how we're trying to do it. So join us. Those tickets, there's a link in the description of the video right now. You can click on that link and get your tickets. So,
that's dope.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're up out of here. Appreciate your time. And, see if the Knicks can get this win on Saturday. Out. Peace.
This is NBK, nothing but Knicks. When Sim passed the assist, you know that it's #1 show that breaks down the game. If you can't play defense, stay out my way. Dribble the ball, come down the lane. 5 seconds on the shot clock, who gon' win us the game? You wanna hear Knick updates and trade rumors? Post-game reviews, this the place you tune in. So tell a friend just to keep the ball moving. Like the page if you feeling the movement. Every game we coming to win. Give us a sub like a player that came off the bench.